I've been wanting to, put a presentation on of this, for several years, and I'm so happy that you could come. This is another, thing that we should probably put on a presentation like this down at the state capitol, because this would be good for all of the other legislators to see this, and then, see how easy it is to put the program on, and then they could do the program at town halls that they're doing, and then the people who come, and that's what the hope is that you have an organization that you think, oh yeah, this would be great, and Abby or one of the other volunteers would be able to come and put the presentation on. So I'll stop rambling on and let Abby go, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
So again, Abby Levine, I used to live like 2 minutes from here. I am still in Tom's district, but now live a little bit farther out in Centennial. And I've been volunteering with Moms Demand Action, doing Be Smart for like the past really 3 years, because it's something that is really important to me as both a mom of 2 kids, and as a gun owner who wants to see responsible gun safety measures taken in every home across the country. So Be Smart is a program. Every town developed it as a nonpartisan, not political 501c3 org that its goal is just to educate people about gun safety and how to have conversations with family members and with kids, and make sure that everyone is locking up their guns to ultimately just try to reduce gun violence. So let's see. Here we go. So really, the end goal is we want our kids to grow up happy and healthy. And we understand that everyone has the right to the decision about owning firearms, and that it's a very emotional topic. We come from a lot of different backgrounds, and this is a little bit of a smaller group. So if there's questions or comments that you have throughout, just raise your hand, and we can have more of an open dialogue if you would like that. But people have a lot of opinions about guns in this country. And this is meant to be a program where we just come in and we say, we understand that people are coming from different backgrounds. We don't want to talk about the legislation and the policies right now. We just want to talk about how do we make every household that has guns in this country safer for children, for teens, for adults, to reduce gun violence. And if we can prevent just one unintentional shooting that happens, then it's already been worth it. So again, the program is meant to just bring us all together and start a conversation about how to treat guns and be responsible around them. As we get started, these are a few resources because we will be talking about gun violence and suicide. So if you want to just take a picture, these are great resources for anyone that you might know who's going through a crisis and needs help. So I'll pause there for a second. But unfortunately, firearms are now the leading cause of death for children and teens in America. As I was putting this together, I hadn't done it in about a year. I had just kind of taken a step back from volunteering, dealing with just raising 2 kids as a single mom. And a lot of the graphics had to be updated because the numbers increased, the percentages increased. And it took me a second just to realize we've been talking about this issue forever and it's just getting worse. And so it's just something I kept in mind. But when there are school shootings and mass shootings, we hear about them on the national headlines. They come across our news feeds. They're on Facebook. We hear about them. People get upset. But the majority of gun deaths in this country and gun violence doesn't happen like that. It happens on individual cases in people's homes with firearms that are obtained by family members and relatives. So this is a really important conversation. And one study by the CDC ended up finding that about 76% of school shootings that they had obtained the gun from a relative. And so if we can make sure that those guns are locked up and that people don't have access to them if they aren't theirs, we can greatly reduce the number of school shootings and the number of unintentional shootings that happen every single year. So these are just a few headlines that you might see. But we have about 350 unintentional shootings by children under the age of 18 every single year in this country. This year we've had 78. And that's kids are finding guns in their parents' nightstands. They're finding them on top of cabinets because people are thinking, well, that's a good hiding spot. The kid isn't going to find it. If they do, we've had conversations, they know not to use it, but they don't. And every year we see this happen where people are finding firearms, thinking that they're toys, shooting them, not knowing what the impacts are. And it leads to a lot of death and injury that is 100% preventable if people take responsible measures to be safe and lock up their firearms and ammunition. So the framework of this is be smart. So SMART, secure, model, ask, recognize, and tell. And so we'll kind of walk through what each one of those means and how we can start conversations and make sure that we're taking the right measures to prevent these unintentional shootings that happen. Starting with S, secure guns. If you are a firearm owner, and most firearm owners want to be responsible gun owners, so just securing a firearm in your home or your car is the number one thing that we can do to make sure that people who aren't supposed to have access to it don't. And that if someone does end up finding it, if it's a trigger lock or something, that they don't have the fingerprint or access to be able to end up having access to that firearm. There are 4.6 million kids in the world or in the country that live in a home that has an unlocked, loaded firearm. 4.6 million. And 13 million households with kids have at least one firearm. So that's a good percentage of them that their access is easy because they're unlocked and they're loaded. Another thing that was a little bit shocking is about a quarter of parents didn't know that their kids even knew where firearms were in the home. Kids are smarter than we think. I find that out every single day with something different. But kids are smart and they know a lot more than we think they do. If there's a firearm in the home, chances are kids know about it, they know where it is, and they know how to access it. And so this is a really important measure that we make sure that firearms are not accessible to them. Hiding a gun again is not securing it. Hiding it, cabinets, underneath beds, it happens again, like almost every day that someone is finding a firearm and having access to it. So these are just a few kind of just safes and locks. And I have a bunch of cable locks with me. They're kind of the easiest thing that you can do just to make sure if you have a gun, you can take one home today. They're a little bit trickier than some others, but keeping your gun in a safe. There's lots of different ones. They have them that you can put in your car if you're driving around and have a firearm with you that's not just in your home. They have so many like biometric where it's a fingerprint where you can have it programmed so you don't just need one person's thumbprint to get in, you need two people's thumbprints to get in. So there are lots of different tools that are out there that you can find on Amazon or at any gun dealer to take those steps. And then cases, trigger locks, cable locks, again, that's kind of the lock that is standard that comes with most firearms because by law you have to sell it, give it with the sale of a firearm. But trigger locks too, one of the biggest things that I hear all the time of people not wanting to lock up their guns is I need it for self-defense and I don't have time to unlock it. And a trigger lock that has a thumbprint, you can get them open in about 0.2 seconds. So just having it on there, if it is in a nightstand or if it is on you, to make sure that you have something where only you can access it and a child can't, is something that if more people had access to them and if we had a conversation and they were more prevalent, we wouldn't have as much gun violence and especially unintentional shootings. The M is modeling responsible behavior around guns. And the thing here to remember is it's adults, like as adults, as parents, it's our job. It's not the job of curious children or teenagers to be responsible around guns. It's ours. It's our job to keep them safe. And that's why we're having these conversations. So making sure that we talk to our kids about guns, making sure that we're talking to other parents and their friends at school, their parents, if they're going over to their home, having those conversations so that we make sure we're modeling that responsible behavior. And again, conversations happen at different levels as kids get older. With mine, it's really just been if you see one, tell an adult immediately. We actually just had this conversation yesterday because I was getting they have like their Amazon tablets and they have headphones, and they found a pair of like headphones that you like range earmuffs. And so it was, oh, well, these don't plug in and they're not around a gun whatsoever, but it was something that they found that they hadn't seen before. And so that started a whole line of questions. But I keep my firearm with a biometric trigger lock in a biometric safe that they have never seen. And so before we left today, they wanted to see it in the closet because they'd never seen the safe before. And so as they get older, conversations look different. That especially happens with teenagers. So making sure that we're having conversations with kids that is age appropriate, so that they know that firearms aren't toys, and they do have consequences, and we need to be responsible around them. The A is asking about unsecured guns in other homes. And this is a big one that a lot of people aren't comfortable with at first. But if you think about letting kids go over to someone else's house, there's a whole line of questions that we ask, from allergens to pets to who's going to be home to what does screen time look like. As they get older, is there access to alcohol? And something that we need to be remembering is ask about firearms. Do they own guns? And if they do, are they accessible? Are they unlocked? Are they locked? Is the ammunition kept separately from the firearm? This is that we are making sure that when our kids go somewhere, we've done everything that we can to make sure that they are in a safe environment where they will never have access unsupervised to a firearm. And this is one on the Be Smart website. There's like text prompts you can copy and paste, because sometimes it's weird to even think about the wording that we would use. But I come from a family of hunters, and I've had to every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I send the same message of, are they locked? And we've had conversations where they haven't been locked. And so it's all right. I'll buy something on Amazon and send it to your house before Thanksgiving because my kids aren't going to go into a home where they might be able to have access to a firearm. So it's not comfortable, but it's really, really important to have. I think I just messed that slide up. Here we go. And there's some examples of text conversations that people have had. The other thing is I have never had a conversation that like spiraled in the wrong direction. Usually it's thank you so much for asking. Like we also practice responsible gun safety. They are locked. I really appreciate that you asked. That's the kind of conversations I've had with other parents. I've never had one that it's defensive. It's usually you then have a conversation working together to solve solve the case of like a Thanksgiving where there might be a family member who doesn't have a trigger lock or a safe. And then the R is recognizing the role of guns in suicide. And this one is really hard to talk about, but these numbers go up every single year. And the hard truth is that most people who attempt suicide, who use a firearm, it's uniquely lethal compared to any other method. And the majority of people who do attempt suicide don't attempt again. But rates over the past 10 years have dramatically increased across the board. In America, they've increased by 19%. And with youth, they have increased by 53%. And again, it's one of those things you hear about mass shootings, you don't hear about suicides as often, but it's about 60% of gun violence deaths in the United States are people taking their own lives. And when we look at kids getting access to firearms, it's a huge issue. 41% of child suicides involve a gun, and again, are then uniquely lethal. This is one, last year, this number was 17%, it's now at 20%. But a national survey by the CDC of high school students found that 20% have seriously considered attempting suicide just within the past year. And 41% of kids in gun-owning households have said that they have access to those firearms. So this is an issue that we as adults and as responsible gun owners, as people who care about the youth in our community, need to be having, because this is preventable. It's so preventable. And if we can have these conversations and save even one person, it's already been worth it. So again, these are resources to contact if you know someone who is going through a hard time. One of the most important things is making sure that they don't have access to a firearm. In Colorado, we have red flag laws, and Colorado firearms website has a map of places that you can take firearms to temporarily remove them. If you are going through a time of crisis or a time where you know that you have a teen who shouldn't be around a firearm, even if you have a trigger lock, it's just better to always be on the safer side. So removing access is a huge thing, and making sure that they have the resources to be able to talk to people and get the help that they need. And then lastly, the T is to tell everyone. Again, this is something that's so preventable. It's really, it's a message that we should be spreading, and we should be having these conversations more, because it's such a seemingly little step that just talking about firearm safety can greatly reduce the gun violence that happens in this country every year, especially with kids. And unintentional shootings and teen suicides are increasing every year, and making sure that people are aware that there are steps that they can take, there are resources. We should be having these conversations about firearms in other people's homes, family and friends, to make sure that the people that we love are safe. And so kind of the ask is, if you want to get more involved, you can text SMART to that number to learn more. And then like this presentation, resources are online, but our organization goes around, we talk to PTAs, churches, really any community organization where the message would be received, because everyone should be aware, especially in areas where there are more gun owners. And we've seen the rates of gun ownership increase during COVID. And so making sure that we're having these conversations is incredibly important. And with that, that's my contact information. Again, getting more involved, and we can open it up for questions if there are any. Yeah.
Well, something I think we could add to your thing, a little minor thing. So but people being inked today is a very, very popular thing. You see people inked all over the place. But if you see someone with a semicolon, you know what that means?
Yeah.
I think you can have that up there where people know that if you see someone with a semicolon, that's somebody you can talk to. You got a problem, and they're gonna listen. Because that's the commitment, when you put the semicolon on your skin.
That and having just someone to talk to in general, so those resources, like there are people you can immediately be connected to in text. But that's it, yes. Yeah, it's been a sign of people who, the semicolon is like a pause, but you,
Especially
Yep.
in the ink society. Because some people, people who got a lot of ink. In my shirt here, I've seen that. But they respect people who have ink and they like to talk to them about their ink. And if it's a semicolon and they got thoughts about, I don't want to be here anymore, they know they can talk to somebody. You just gonna listen. Not gonna be judgmental. You're gonna listen to them and help them. Right there, face to face.
Yeah.
And that's missing from your presentation.
noted, thank you. Yeah,
So, semicolon means what? In the world of ink people, if someone has a semicolon tattooed on hand, face, whatever, that you are signaling to the world out there that you understand suicide and you're willing to talk to somebody about suicide feelings and help them find the right help. That
it's a
you're open to
tattoo.
it.
Yeah,
So I appreciate the fact that you're a gun owner and you're here talking about that. And but maybe you can answer this question. Why do not responsible gun owners get rid of some of their guns? I mean,
I think
mean,
it's-
you're worried about
yeah.
having your guns in your house and whatnot. So like a lot of quote unquote responsible gun owners who, is everyone so fearful that they're going to be, they need them in their house? I mean, are there that many break-ins that you constantly need a gun? I don't understand.
I think gun ownership in general is a really personal issue. And there are a lot of emotions that come with it. I can say I got my firearm for the purpose of hiking. So I briefly lived in Arizona, and where I would hike, there were mountain lions. And almost everyone carried a small 9mm with them just in case, because that was an issue. And so when I moved here, I haven't done it as much, but hiking in the woods, like a gun is more effective than bear spray. It just is. And so I do understand that, yes, guns are the issue, and having a firearm in your home does increase the risk of gun injury. It also, some people say, well, it also increases the risk of someone trying to break into your home for gun theft, because we have a ton of that every single year. It's also for people who are untrained. You're more likely to have a person who breaks into your home use your firearm against you than you are to use it against somebody else.
So that would,
But-
if you didn't have a gun in your home, right? I mean, it's just very confusing to me.
And the point of this presentation is, the point of this is to say, we can have the conversations about policy somewhere else, but the fact is, there are guns in this country. There's more guns than there are people. So
100 million versus 33 million people.
So at the end of the day, we should be responsible with those guns and make sure people know that they should be locking them up so that we can prevent these unintentional things. And yes, if you want to advocate for banning guns, getting them out of people's homes, that's, I think, a separate issue, very valid. But the point of this is to just educate people on how to be safe with the guns that they already have. Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect you're probably preaching to the choir, but most of us here are probably pretty safe, but I just want to throw this out. As a gun owner, what would be your thoughts? It always seemed to me that you've got to give some teeth to requiring gun owners to be safe and secure their guns. What are your thoughts to like a policy or a legislation that would have strict liability on gun owners if their guns were misused?
I mean, I don't speak for the organization. This is just my view. Absolutely. I think that gun owners should be held liable. I think that there should be more required training. I'm all for anything that we can do to make people more safe.
Understand there's one of the states now that we have requirements on storage.
And Colorado does now as well, so.
Yeah, we just passed the plaque law to make it liability on manufacturers and retailers. Not so much the individuals, of course, and that's one of the things they put, multipliers on somebody. If in the commission of a crime, you're using a firearm, they're going to, increase, the penalties on it. And, my problem with that has always been, we need to get in front of the situation. I mean, my son's already dead. It doesn't matter how many, his murderer, is in jail for, 3,655 years. So what? And so what? So Abby, hey, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
this. We really appreciate it. Like I said, and as she said, that's one of the things, that they have, is she has brought some gun locks with her. People can get those, through organizations like this. I know, some of the gun stores do them, organizations have that. So securing your firearms shouldn't be, a problem. So if anybody needs one, be sure to touch base